Hello, everyone. Welcome back again. To those who have been following my journey, purchased a property in Italy at the end of 2024, and I'm currently back in Italy dealing with my residency requirements and overseeing the construction of the home that was purchased. And it's been quite a dynamic time. I've only been here for about a week, but I've gotten a lot done. So if those of you, if it's your first time watching this channel, I'm a New York licensed attorney, and I talk about moving abroad and all of the legal implications of moving abroad so that you could protect yourself and your family. From my school of thought, it's not something you want to jump into. You want to plan and be as strategic as possible. And I talk about the strategy on this channel. So if this is content that you want deeper information on, continue and you can follow my journey on the YouTube channel. So as I mentioned, I'm renovating a home in Pescara, Italy. How I ended up in Italy, you may be asking. Well, I studied here 20 years ago and fell in love with Italy. And Italy has always been in my heart. Since then, I've continued to take language classes to remain conversational, almost fluent in Italian. And so it was maybe 2020 when the world was upside down. I decided I wanted to move abroad, not only move abroad, but even buy a property abroad, because as we know, the cost of living, the cost to purchase a property in the US is becoming more and more difficult. So I said I wanted a home. That's my heart's desires. I don't care where it is. In Italy, the price was right. For those who are unfamiliar, Italy has a dwindling population and is encouraging foreigners to relocate and purchase many of the abandoned homes, some for €1, some for upwards of 500,000. But there's so much price variation for almost anyone's budget. But it's not for the faint of heart. I'm warning you. You have to have courage. You have to have a strategy, and you have to have a nervous system that can deal with the unexpected. Because you're coming from the US, you're unfamiliar with the system, the bureaucracy, and you may not know the language. I have the advantage of knowing the language, but where I'm struggling is the system. And so that is what we're going to discuss in this video. Where I am right now in the project, I'm scouting contractors. I had a previous architect and we had to part ways, and I'll discuss that later on when I know more. So I'm right now onboarding a new architect, and scouting contractors involves electrician, plumbers. I do not have a construction background, so this is also new to me. So I also want to make a note that we're not comparing the US system to the Italian system and saying the US system is preferential or better, it has more bureaucracy or less bureaucracy than the Italian system. As an attorney, I've dealt with bureaucracy in the United States, in New York. And as an attorney, I get no favoritism. I have to deal with it just like every other taxpayer. The bureaucracy in in Italy is no different in my experience. Bureaucracy is bureaucracy, and you're not immune to it in the US. So I do want to dismantle that belief. In terms of cost, as I mentioned earlier, thousands of Americans are considering and who have done already relocated to Italy and purchased property because, as I mentioned, the cost of purchasing a property in the United States is cost prohibitive. So Americans are deciding that Italy is an option for them to be able to purchase a home, even if they have to renovate it and relocate there. It's an option because of the cost of housing in the United States. Not only that, it's no secret that Italy has superior engineering and construction. Even if these houses are 100, 200 years old, the craftsmanship, the artisan work is spectacular. So that's also an attractive option for the price that Americans are paying. And as I mentioned, the price varies from €1 to €10, upwards of 500,000. So they're homes to meet your budget. So we're met with the cost, superior engineering, and the beauty, which is attracting many Americans to make the decision to buy property abroad. So if you're on the fence, continue to follow this journey, perhaps my journey will encourage you that it's something that can be doable, especially I'm a woman and I do not have a construction background, but I have the cojones to do this. We mentioned bureaucracy. Some may also be skeptical about corruption. Well, as we've seen recently, the US is not immune to corruption. There's corruption no matter what country. So I do want to dismantle that belief that the US does not get a gold star for being able to mitigate corruption in its borders. You're not protected more in the US than you are in Italy as well. That is also a misnomer. There really are few remedies for somebody who purchases a property in the US and is dealing with faulty construction or misrepresentation of the property or mold or asbestos. There's very few remedies other than dealing with the legal system and having to sue the previous seller or having to sue the real estate owner. Those are really your options, and you need the money to sue. You also can complain to the administrative bodies that oversee the licensing in the real estate or whatever field it is. But I say all that to say that no one is immune. You're not more protected in the US than you are in Italy in terms of protecting yourself and laws. So with all that background, I am going to present to you a deep dive of how I'm protecting myself and my family in renovating a 1939 Italian home as a foreigner. The contract that no one is going to tell you about that you're going to need to protect yourself, because contracts keep the evil at bay. So I bought the property in Italy for less than $50,000 with everything included. I'm managing a full renovation remotely because I have to go back and forth to deal with clients and other obligations in the US. I have no family connection. I have no connections in Italy other than the historic that I lived here previously, and I'm familiar with the culture. So how do I make sure I do not get taken advantage of? So I built a 17-article bilingual contract that protects me from every angle. And today I'm going to walk you through exactly what's in it and why every single clause exists. The first part, most foreigners, buyers sign whatever the contractor puts in front of them. Italian contractors often request 30 to 40% upfront. That's thousands of euros with no guarantee. You're not there to supervise. You're in another country and another time zone. The language barrier means you might not even understand what you're signing. Now, we're dealing with a 1939 building that has specific legal risks. Historic zone rules that most buyers don't even know about. And that is innately one of the issues many buyers are going to have to deal with. Most of the construction is going to be pre-1992. So there will be legal risks regarding asbestos and lead paint. I learned all of this baptism by fire. So before we even start the renovation, I even had to, like I mentioned, let go of my first architect for not really doing anything after several weeks. And that experience has taught me exactly why every single clause in this contract exists. So Article 1, fixed price. This means the contractor cannot come back to me at the end and say the materials cost more than expected, so the price went up. The number we agreed to at the start is the number I pay, full stop. This protects you from the most common renovation scam, the creeping invoice. You could also have a caveat that any increases have to be confirmed and agreed to in writing, and they can't be beyond a certain percentage, but we'll shelve that. Now, Article 2, payment milestones. I never pay for work that hasn't happened. There are 7 payment stages, and each one is tied to something I can see and verify, not a date on the calendar. So the contractor only gets paid when I can confirm the work is done, and I hold back 10% until 45 days after completion in case problems emerge. Article 3, delay penalties. If the contractor runs late, they pay me a daily penalty. This keeps them motivated to finish on time. Without this clause, delays are free for them and expensive for me. Article 4, materials and property constraints. This is specific to my 1939 building. The barrel vaults, and I'll put in videos so you could see, and the original marble floors are protected, so no one can drill into them or damage them. The new bathroom that I want has to connect to the existing drain stack in a specific way. So every technical requirement is written down so there's no surprises. Also, weekly photos. This is Article 5. So every Friday, I'm requesting I get a date stamped photo of everything happening on site before any walls or floors get closed. I get photos of what's inside, the pipes, the wiring, everything. Because once it's closed, it's closed. This is how I supervise a renovation from anywhere else in the world, especially when it comes to waterproofing. You want pictures, videos before that plumber seals up that wall to show that there's waterproofing behind the pipes. Article 6 deals with warranties. 2-year warranty on workmanship, 10 years on anything structural, and the contractor must have a professional liability insurance before they touch a single wall. If something goes wrong, there's a policy to claim against it. Article 7, dispute resolution. If there's a disagreement, we go to mediation first, not straight to court. Court is a headache in the US as well as in Italy. Mediation is faster and cheaper. If mediation fails, then we can opt to go to the local court in Pescara, not in New York, not Rome. The local court knows local law. Article 8 deals with contractor abandonment. So if the contractor disappears for more than 10 working days without telling me, and I know this happens because it's happened with my architect, I can legally terminate the contract, keep what I've already paid as compensation, and hire someone else to finish the job at the original contractor's expense. Article 9, it's called scope creep protection. So any change to the project has to come to me in writing with a cost estimate before the work is done. If they do extra work without my written approval, they don't get paid for it. This stops the classic move where the contractors do unauthorized work, then present a separate invoice. Article 10, inspection rights. I have the right to inspect the site at any time with 24 hours notice. No one can close a wall or a floor without my signing off. If I find defective work, the contractor has 10 days to fix it at their own cost. If they don't fix it, I hire someone else and take the cost out of what I still owe them. Article 11 deals with planning permits. Now, my property is in a historic conservation zone. There are strict rules about what you can and cannot change. So this article makes the contractor personally responsible if they break those rules. If the municipality comes knocking because someone built something illegal, the contractor pays the fines and fixes it, not me. Article 12, single point contract. That means I'm the one who owns the property and will be communicated with regarding any representations and any approval. And it also names the supervising architect, so the contractor always knows exactly who has authority on the site. Now, asbestos, this one surprised a lot of people I've talked to. So a building from 1939 almost certainly contains asbestos somewhere in the pipe installation, floor adhesive, all coating. So this article says if anyone finds suspicious material, everything stops immediately. I get notified within 24 hours and nothing gets touched until a specialist signs off, and the cleanup cost is not including in the original contract price. This is Italian law. It's not optional. It's not negotiable. And if an asbestos is detected and there's no abatement, you as the homeowner can be criminally liable because asbestos is extremely toxic. For those who don't know, asbestos was a fire retardant that was used in Italy in construction, in the US too, up until 1992. In New York, when did they stop using asbestos in construction? I have to find that out. Site security, we're at Article 14. So if tools get stolen, this is something that happens everywhere in the US, in Italy. So if tools get stolen from the site, that's the contractor's problem, not mine. If a worker damages the neighbor's wall, the contractor's insurance covers it. If anyone gets injured on site, the contractor is responsible for health and safety compliance. I cannot be responsible for what happens on a construction site I'm not standing on. So I built that into the contract. Also, Article 16 is a clause for WhatsApp as legal evidence. This is the one people find most surprising in Italy. WhatsApp messages can be used as legal evidence, but only if both parties have agreed to it in contract. So the article locks that in. It also means verbal phone calls don't count. Everything has to be confirmed in writing. For someone managing remotely, this is everything. What I also do is I record all WhatsApp video conversations. So I make sure I do it on my computer so I can screen record it and have it as evidence. I've done that when I was just searching for a home. Every meeting I have over WhatsApp that is a conversation, not text messages, I always record it. And then finally, I end with a final article that expresses this is the entire agreement. That says the contract plus its 5 attachments is the complete agreement. So any verbal promises made before signing means nothing. Any changes after signing have to be in writing. And if one clause gets challenged legally, the rest of the contract still stands. So what I did here is I use how I built contracts in the US to protect myself, to protect my clients, and I translated it into Italy. Like, what are the worst case scenarios that can possibly happen? How to protect the client? And I created this contract and I created this guide. So what are your 3 takeaways from this video? 1, never pay more than 10% upfront, even though it's customary in Italy that they will ask for 30 to 40% before starting working. Do not agree to that. You are too much at risk. You don't know the culture. You don't know the system. You are remote. You're really exposed. So that is one of the biggest things I learned, and it's negotiable. It's not in law that 30% is required. It's just customary. So you, unfamiliar with the custom, can totally negotiate that to 10%, regardless of what they tell you is normal. So walk away if someone is not willing to negotiate to 10% and they insist on 30 to 40% before starting. The second aspect that I want you to take away, the second lesson, is milestone payments only. Every euro you hand over should be tied to something you can see, verify, and photograph. Dates mean nothing, especially in the construction industry. Dates gets pushed back all the time. Milestones mean everything. Thirdly, because you're dealing with older properties, get the asbestos survey done before anyone touches anything, especially in a pre-1992 building. It is Italian law. It protects you legally. Otherwise, you're exposed to criminal liability, and it protects the workers on site as well. Do not skip this step before you do anything. So if you found this information useful, I do have a Move Abroad course titled Legally Abroad, which walks you through the important aspects of moving to another country, not just Italy, the visa requirements of different countries, how to verify that you are eligible to immigrate to those countries, because every country has a different standard regarding age, whether you are receiving a pension, whether you're a remote worker. We also look at in the course health insurance requirements, how to purchase international health insurance, how to purchase international health insurance if you have a chronic condition, because that eliminates a lot of people from being able to purchase international health insurance, which is even a requirement for you to receive a visas. But there's workarounds, and I discuss that in the course. I also talk about your tax obligations if you remain outside of the United States. So even if you establish residency in another country, you still have tax obligations. Uncle Sam does come to collect, and he ensures that his U.S. citizens living abroad remain compliant to the sometimes overreaching tax laws of the United States. So you want to know what you're at risk for, and I discussed that in the course. It's a really in-depth course. Even if you've moved abroad and you're still not sure about certain areas, it would really benefit you to hear it from an attorney to present all your risk and the things that you need to do to protect yourself. If you are a remote worker living abroad, there's also some key aspects regarding your relocation that's discussed in the course. So essentially, it's a deeper understanding regarding your responsibilities as an expat living in another country. You don't want to take moving abroad lightly. This is not a vacation. You are dealing with tax laws, you're dealing with immigration laws, and in some cases, the penalties can be criminal or hefty fines. I'll also be documenting the entire renovation as it happens and asbestos survey results, how I found the right contractors, the weekly site photos of it all. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you're buying property in Italy and want to know where to start, drop your question in the comments. I'll answer for everyone. And again, I think I mentioned this in the earlier video. People may think that this is revolutionary, but unfortunately, the housing costs in the US, just to have housing, a basic necessity, has become impossible for many. So my quest to find security in housing is anything but ordinary. I just have to go to the other side of the world to do it. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.